If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or a computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Welcome back to another episode of Bombshell 1111 Girl Talk Series Podcast. Bombshell 1111 is a platform created to teach ways to nourish the mind, body, and soul. This platform allows this podcast to create weekly content on podcasts with special guests each week that will stimulate your spiritual, mental, and physical growth. The podcasts are played on social media platforms such as Spotify, YouTube, Anchor radio station, Apple Podcasts, and more. This station has been created to allow us to interact with each other to share knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and light. So without further ado, please help me welcome your host and founder of Bombshell 1111 Girl Talk Series, Keya.
Back everybody to another episode of Bombshell 1111 Podcast Therapy for Women of Color. My name is Keya and I'm your host. Tonight, you guys, we have a very special guest by the name of Padma. Padma uses a combination of neuropsychology and ancient healing practices to create long-lasting transformation in her clients in a short amount of time. She has 20 years of experience as a psychotherapist, and this has added to her advantage with her work. So without further ado, you guys, let's welcome her to the show. Welcome, Padma. How are you?
Thank you so much, Keya, for having me here. So happy to be here.
I'm excited for you to come on. I had to practice saying your name like 1,000 times. I think I got it now.
I love that. Yes, it's a unique name.
Yeah, it's a very pretty name as well. But I got it now. Padma. I have it down pat. So I did a little bio to let the audience and listeners know a little bit about your background and who you were. But I always like to let the guests come on and do their own intro. So can you just give us a little intro about who you are, what you do, and where you're from?
Oh, thank you. Yes, I absolutely can. I basically help, as you may have already seen around us, there's so much stress and people are overworked. And a lot of times this overwork or like this desire it comes from a desire to create a life of impact. And that's why you're doing this podcast, Keya, and that's why I have my podcast. Like, we do things because we want to create impact as human beings. But what happens is that there's so much conditioning from the time we're born about what is success and what you're supposed to do versus what you're here to do. And what I help my clients do is really unpackage that and let them shed those layers that no longer work for them and find their true essence so they can shine based on their own unique skills and talents. And to do that, I basically use neuropsychology and I use ancient healing practices like meditation and energy healing, and so that they can tap into their own wisdom to create the change.
And Padma, what types of patients do you generally work with?
So the clients I work with generally tend to be overachievers. They're driven. They want to do so much more in the world. And they tend to be stressed out because there's a drive to do this, but it doesn't necessarily come with a balance. Mm-hmm. Right? Their families are suffering, or their relationships are suffering, or their health is suffering. Like, something feels not in balance.
Okay. So tonight I have two topics that I kind of wanted to talk and discuss. Overthinking and meditation. And I wanted to kind of allow you time to educate us on both of these topics. Can you define for the listeners and audience exactly what is overthinking?
So that's such a great question. And again, as a society, what we're often trained to do is think and analyze. Yes, we need our analytical mind. We need a very logical brain to function, right? Every day in the morning, if you get up and you're like, I don't know how to brush my teeth, there's a function for thinking. Like, we need to know that so that it's efficiency, creates efficiency in your life. But what often happens as we get older, and your listeners, you may already see this in your own life, we get into overthinking something. Say, for example, I see this often with my clients. They have to make a decision, and they know in their gut feeling what the decision needs to be. But all the logical brain will come into place and say, nope, this is not the right decision. What if this happens? The fear kicks in. And that's when you know you're in overthinking mode. When there's tension in the body, when there's stress, you know you're in overthinking.
Mm. Mm. What does psychology say about overthinking?
So again, if you think about society as a whole, we value logical brain too much. It's very important. Don't get me wrong. Like, this is the logical brain is how I'm able to log into this computer and talk to you, and have, everybody can listen to this podcast, right? The logical brain is needed. But what happens is that when we focus too much on the thinking rather than feeling into what something feels good or not, we lose the capacity to be intuitive or to trust our gut feeling. Einstein has this beautiful quote which says, the thinking brain, I'm going to butcher it, but paraphrasing it, he said, the thinking brain that caused the problem in the first place cannot be the one to solve the problem. So whatever your thoughts are that created the problem in the first place cannot be the same thoughts that will help you get out of the problem.
Right.
So in order to find a solution, we have to almost step outside and take a deep breath and say, okay, what is it that I want right now? Can I take a break from this problem, come back to it another time, so I really have some intuitive feeling about it? And most often, Keya, you may also see this with your own work that you do, people already know the answers. The answers came in immediately the first time they knew what the problem was, but they don't trust that answer. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then they tend to be like, oh, is this, they make pros and cons list and get into this. Oh, this is where the overthinking kicks in.
Yeah, I agree. I even do that myself sometimes. So yeah, I totally agree.
Not just you, Keya. I do it too. Even though I teach this stuff, it is a daily practice of saying, oh, there you go. And for me, this is such a good question you're bringing up too. The way to know if you're overthinking is if you feel tension, if you feel stress, if you feel the doubt kicks in, or if you're overwhelmed, those are anxiety. Those are the times when you know you're totally in overthinking mode.
So, Padma, what are some techniques that you would suggest to cope with overthinking?
The first step, Keya, is to slow down. How often do we all permit ourselves to take a bath, right? Just to soak in the tub for 10 minutes, 20 minutes. We don't do that. How often do we just sit without scrolling on the phone? How often do we just sit and don't do anything? So when we slow down, really slowing down and just saying, okay, I'm feeling this tension right now. I'm feeling stress right now. I'm just going to take a deep breath in, and slowing that down, it allows you access to your own inner wisdom, which has all the answers. And that's the first step. It's such a simple practice when you can just follow your breath. It's hard to do if you're not used to it. You have to train your brain to say, it's okay, I'm just going to sit for 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've started making it a practice within myself too, as well as at a certain time, I turn my phone on Do Not Disturb, turn my ringer off. Yes. For my time, for my mental time. I've become to start doing that as a habit. So I definitely agree.
Yes. And, if you can think back in your own life, Keya, what prompted you to start this podcast? It didn't come from overthinking. You had an intuitive hit, right? Said, nope, I need to do this. This is how I'm going to serve people. And that's what made you probably do it. I'm taking a guess here. And
Yeah.
right. And so that is what I'm talking about. If you overthought it, if you're like, how am I going to record this? How am I going to find the next, right? What would happen?
I would have never gotten started. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. You nailed it. You nailed it. That's it.
I agree. Oh, wow. This is just like coming into like, I don't know, it's deja vu, because I see everything you're saying in just my day-to-day life. Because I experience those same types of emotions that you're speaking of. So I see exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, that was it. That's it. And another tool that I often recommend is moving your attention away from that problem. Because whatever you're overthinking about, if you just move your attention, maybe go for a walk, maybe do some exercise, maybe go cook, or maybe go just drink a glass of water, you're bringing your attention away from that problem cycle. Oh, I'm stressed. I have this thought. I'm stressed. I can't find the answer. I'm stuck. Right? This is what our brain constantly tells. This is the internal dialogue, and that internal dialogue will keep you more and more stuck. But instead, if you can shift your attention, go do something else, and then come back to this, there will be a lot more calmness to the way you're addressing the problem.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And speaking of calmness, that goes right into our next segment, our next topic, meditation.
Yes.
You read a lot about it, and especially now, it's a trend. People are talking about meditating and the importance of meditation. But coming from you and your knowledge, can you give us the definition and the most common form of meditation?
Sure. So meditation can be a practice. That's how most people start. It can be like 10 minutes. And there's so many tools available these days. There's like the guided apps that you can download where you can do some guided meditation. You can just follow your breath. There are many different classes people offer about meditation. The place I'm referring to is a meditative state, is a state of being calm at all times, is recognizing that no matter what you're facing right now, it'll pass. I think, and I'm going to invite your listeners to do this too. Like when you think back on something that you really had a hard time with in your past, did it not work out? Right? It always works out. The answers will come and the solutions come. Even if you've gone through a really difficult time in your life, that thing passes. So this is an invitation to allow versus forcing. So a meditative state is a mind of allowing versus forcing. And does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. And it's exactly what you said. You worry and you think about it, and then it all works out.
Yes. Right. So what if you came to that, not only you, like what if we all addressed it from a place of being calm and saying, okay, I'm just going to take a deep breath. I know this feels overwhelming right now, but can I just take a deep breath? Can I just be and trust that the answers will come? I'll know exactly what to do next. And when that place of that is a meditative state. And you may have already seen this in your own life where when we address an issue or a problem from a place of feeling calm, it's much more easier to deal with it than in a state of panic.
Correct. Yeah, you're able to think more. You're able to come up with more solutions. So yeah, I agree.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Now, there's a difference between meditation, relaxing thinking, and all these different terms, and self-hypnosis. Yes. Can you kind of differentiate those for us, the difference between relaxing thinking, concentration, and self-hypnosis, for those who kind of don't understand what the difference is between those terms and meditation?
Yes. So a meditation is more, it's a practice of relaxing or calming the brain. The brain is where all the thinking happens, right? And that's where, it's like the best way to describe this is someone rings a doorbell, right? And then in your house, your first instinct is to go and open the door. And that is the brain level. And when you can meditate every single day as a practice, just starting with that, it allows you to calm that brain cells down. So when you calm the brain cells down, it allows you access to more of the intuitive mind, which is where a lot of the answers lie. Like that example, like I said about you starting the podcast, it was an intuitive feeling you had, and you followed that intuition to creating this podcast. And we all have examples of that in our life, right? Sometimes it may make no logical sense, but you'd be like, I have to do this. You might be like, I have no idea why, but I have to do this. And that's an intuitive feeling. That intuitive feeling you have access to when the brain is calm. Now, what hypnosis, I'm so glad you brought that up, because self-hypnosis, every hypnosis that you do is self-hypnosis, by the way. So self-hypnosis is another tool to access the subconscious mind. What the subconscious mind's job is to remind you, like it's what allows our body to function the way it does. But the subconscious mind also is a storehouse of every single emotion, event that you've had, experiences you've had. You know that movie, the Disney movie Inside Out?
Yeah.
That's a great example of how the conscious mind and the subconscious mind works. Now, what hypnosis does is it allows you to access the subconscious mind and to reprogram it. So, taking that movie, I'm sure everybody has watched it. And if you haven't, it's a great movie to watch. When certain incidents happen in our life, right, it leaves especially a traumatic incident, whatever is traumatic for you. It could have been like, I worked with a client when she was, I think, in preschool. Her mom picked her up 10 minutes late. But for some reason, it was a very traumatic incident for her, for whatever reason, right? We can't judge why something is traumatic for one person or another. So that imprint left a mark on her subconscious mind. With self-hypnosis, you can go in and literally clear that memory, or that, and make it, you can understand that memory from a different place. Right? Inside Out is a great example. Like, it shows you how something difficult might make you make a different choice or a different decision. And this goes in and helps you clean that out, and also create a different outlook for that.
And what are the benefits of meditation, Padama?
The benefits are so much. You can even just Google effects of meditation, and you'll find tons of paper, like tons of research on this. Meditation, again, is such a calming, it allows you to calm the nervous system. So, we all understand, like when you're stressed, let me ask you, right, Keya, like when you're feeling stressed out, when you're feeling overwhelmed, how does it feel in your body?
Like chaotic, crazy, anxious.
Right.
Sometimes I may get fatigued along with that. So
right.
Mixture of both.
Right. So many, like it puts your nervous system in a state of over-functioning, right?
Right.
Okay. And when you meditate on a regular basis, which is just basically slowing down your breath and allowing the body to relax, it calms down the nervous system. And and maybe you can even answer this, Keya, like when you've been in a calm state of mind, maybe you watched the sunset, right? Or you just went for a walk with your girls. How was that feeling for you?
Peaceful, relaxing. I was able to think and gather my thoughts and even pre-plan about future things. So yeah.
That's the state that you get during meditation. And that's the benefit of it, because when you can do that on a regular basis, even the things that feel stressful, right? You can come out of it much faster.
Agree. So Padma, is there a correct way or is there a wrong way to meditate?
There is no right or wrong way to meditate. Meditation, the easiest place I ask people to start with is just breathing, like focusing on your breath, like taking a deep breath in. Like you can do this with me. You can just take a deep breath in, hold your breath, and let it go. Do it one more time. Take a deep breath, hold, and let it go. See, even just doing it twice, do you see like how it already brought in a level of relaxation?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happens. And that's an easy place to start. And another way to also get into that state of meditation, you can also do this right now, just take a deep breath and just allow your eyes to close. And now you can open it again. See, when we close our eyes, right, like we're not taking in all the stimulus from our environment. We're not bombarded with information after information after information. We can just go inwards. And that is putting you in a meditative state.
Yeah.
These are simple things. And if you can do this throughout your day, not just wait for like a 10-minute practice in the morning or an evening, it just brings a level of calmness no matter what you're facing. Because we all know this, Keya, right now, like there's so much uncertainty in the world and there's so much stress, right? And this is a great way to just say, you know what? I'm okay. Everything is okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I found myself throughout the day taking the deep breaths just to say,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
To gather my thoughts. And then I think once I get that, especially when I'm having a stressful day at work, and then I can kind of get myself regroup and get back to it.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And also another, like just talking about meditation. See, for some people, it might be hard to sit down and do this, but for some people, they love going out in nature and walking. For my husband, like the meditative state is to run. Like he loves running in spite of, I'm in Boston. It's like completely snowed out and he still goes for a run. That's his way of calming his brain down. So you have to find a mechanism that works for you, which is why I was saying like there's no right or wrong way.
Right. Because you could use music as a tool, right?
Yes. Music is an amazing tool. Yes.
Okay. And just before we end the podcast, what are some other tools that the listeners that are listening that could possibly use, other than, like you say, your husband does running and then music? What are some other tools that you would suggest?
There's an app called Calm. I think it's a meditation app. You can just download that. There's a site, I think it's called Self-Hypnosis downloads.com. It's like guided hypnosis audios that people can just download. It's very cheap. It's like, I think $10-12 or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Self-Hypnosis downloads. And I can send you that information so you can put in the show notes.
Thank you.
Yeah. And dancing is a great way to relax.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I haven't did that in so long. I don't even know if I still know how. Padma. But I used to. And it's so true, because in my younger years, when I used to do that so often, I used to just always have so much energy, be so full of life and just happy all the time. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And you can bring that back. Dancing is just movement, like allowing your body to move. When we move, it brings us in the present moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for coming on and being a part of the podcast and sharing your knowledge and your tools. And you guys, I will also leave those resources for you with the different tools that you will be able to use for meditation in the show notes, like she stated. But before we end the podcast, Padma, I wanted to allow some time for you to be able to let the listeners know your social media platforms and also where to check you out, because you also have a podcast where you talk about these topics in addition to other things as well. So can you provide that information for us?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Keya. I have a podcast called Create Your Vibrant Life. And it's so funny because that I did an episode on overthinking, and that is the most downloaded episode.
Yeah, and that's the one that I listened to.
Right, it's the most downloaded because I think people recognize that overthinking is not serving them anymore, right? And so so that's a good one to start with. Create Your Vibrant Life podcast, and I'm usually hanging out on LinkedIn or on Instagram. So on Instagram, it's at Padma Ali, and LinkedIn too, the same thing. You can just find me, Padma Ali, on LinkedIn. And I have a website too. If you want to go in there, I have a quiz about, are you tapped into your highest potential? It's a really fun quiz to take to see, like, are you living from your highest potential as well, on my website.
Well, thank you again so much for that. And I hope you come back on the show for another episode, Padma.
Thank you so much, Keya.
You're more than welcome. And so, you guys, with that being said, always remember, you are a bomb within your own shell. Peace, love, and light, you guys. Until next time, good night. If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure you subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted. Rate, review, and share this podcast with your family and friends. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you're leaving with some valuable information that can help you on your personal journey. Also, check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Bombshell 1111 or at Bombshell 1111 TV. You can also check out our mental health page, Your Health is Your Wealth, on Facebook, which is a page created to inform and support individuals with mental health and other health conditions. And with that being said, always remember, you guys, you are a bomb within your own shell. And until next time, peace, love, and light.